What's up, everybody? Real Talk, Real Talk Chronicles. How are you? How you feeling? Coming a little easy today. I don't know what everybody's day has been like, so we're going to try to start it off real smooth and small. I hope everybody's had a wonderful day. Strawberry Letter 23, Brothers Johnson. I'm sure a lot of you may know this, depending on your age. A little taste of that. Yeah. What's up, Kev? How are you, man?
We're doing good. It's Wednesday night.
Yeah. Happy Wednesday, everybody. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Foster, with my co-hosts, Kevin Branzetti and Pastor Kevin Graves. Today, we are going to be talking about human trafficking. But before our guest comes on this afternoon, she will be joining us later on. Kevin and I was having a discussion about, hey, what's up, Marquetta? What's up, Colin? Hey, Yolanda. Good afternoon, Colin. It's not morning. Kevin and I, yeah, it's morning somewhere. Kevin and I were having conversations about transparency in police-involved shootings. So, with that being said, we're going to show you a video, and what we both agree is excellent transparency involved with law enforcement, and we think it was done in a timely fashion. We also understand that the shooting was kind of like a absolute, and what we mean by that, the smoking gun, the person was definitely in the wrong, and we agree. We want them also as transparent as they are in regards to divulging this kind of information when the police are right. We want the police to be also transparent in shootings when they are wrong also. But before we do that, I want to ask Pastor Graves how he's doing today.
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you?
Good. And before we start, would you be kind enough to start us off in a prayer? Because I think we all need prayer around this time in our lives.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day that you have given us. And Lord, we thank you for the privilege to be transparent in this time. Lord, we thank you, Lord, for the platform to be able to talk about very complex issues. And Lord, we don't have all the answers, but we trust in your insight. We trust in your wisdom. We trust in your knowledge. And Lord, we trust that you are directing us by your precious Holy Spirit. We lean on you in these difficult times, Lord. We ask for supernatural guidance. We ask for your divine wisdom and instruction in this difficult time. And most importantly, we ask that, Lord, you would embrace us with your love, with your understanding. And we ask that, Lord, you would guide our tongue as we speak. And we thank you for what you're doing on
So Kevin and I say amen. So we're going to say amen.
Clearly, the devil got to his Wi-Fi.
Yeah, because he was keeping us righteous and spiritual, and that's a beautiful thing. New administration is in office, and they're trying to do a lot of things, executive offices, things like that. And we'll talk about that later. And when Pastor comes back, we'll have him speak about our special guest this evening. Kev, so we'll start the video. Do you have it?
I have it all lined up.
All right. Well, go ahead, brother. Take it away. Everybody, this video. Kevin, just give us a breakdown of what the people are about to see.
This is a Phoenix PD on their website, and anybody can Google it. Critical incident briefings gives a video of police involved shootings. So we took the most recent one, which Bill and I agree was a justified one, but we're also I did a little Google search on one that has a lot more controversy around it, and we're gonna check out that one as well. And Bill and I haven't seen that ourselves. All right, I just started it.
Share screen.
Yeah, did you start yet?
Oh, that's it. Okay, that's it. Okay.
Let's see.
Hello, I'm Sergeant Andy Williams with the Phoenix Police Department Public Affairs
This is
Bureau.
different than the one
The
earlier.
information, audio, video, and pictures you are about to see are intended to provide details as we.
You want to stop this and go to the other one?
Shooting that occurred January 12th.
No, let's just go live and see what happens.
This video may contain strong language as well as graphic images that could be disturbing to some people. Viewer discretion is advised. This incident started when the suspect, later identified as 19-year-old Angel Vega, threw rocks and damaged vehicles parked at a business near 35th Avenue and Washington Street. A victim at the business told 911 operators Vega was armed and threatened them with a knife.
Phoenix 911, where's your emergency?
Yeah, hey, I was just working at my shop, and my mom is also calling you guys, but this guy threw rocks at my cars. What was that?
What's the address of the emergency?
So it's gonna be.
What's the emergency there?
So this guy, he threw rocks at my cars, and then I tried to confront him. He pulled a knife out on me.
Patrol officers were dispatched to the call and located Vega walking on. This is the only body-worn camera footage of the incident. As the officers approached Vega, they saw a knife in his hands. Officers gave repeated commands to drop the knife, which Vega ignored as he walked away from the officers.
Put it down! Forward, Henry's got a knife.
One officer deployed a taser 2 times, but it was not effective.
I'm gonna go taser.
Vega stopped walking backwards and then moved quickly toward the officers. One officer discharged her firearm, striking Vega.
Forward, Henry 998.
Here is another view of the shooting, which was captured by a security camera from a nearby business.
What? I just gotta find the page.
Vega fell to the ground but still had the knife in his hand. Officers repeated commands to drop the knife.
Put your hands on your side. Drop it, drop it, drop it, drop it.
Keep it down.
Vega eventually complied and threw the knife aside, allowing officers to safely approach, place him in handcuffs, and provide first aid.
Forward, Henry, have the next unit come up here with the stun bag. See if you can't get us the K9 too, because he's still moving. All right, just threw the knife.
I have to do it.
Catch on your back.
Officers provided medical aid to Vega until Phoenix Fire personnel arrived and transported him to a local hospital for treatment. The knife used by Vega was recovered on scene. Vega currently remains hospitalized and upon release will be booked on multiple aggravated assault charges as well as criminal damage. The officer involved in the shooting is assigned to the South Mountain Precinct Patrol Division and has been with the department for 4 years. This incident is the subject of both an internal and a criminal investigation, which will be reviewed by the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. Conclusions about whether the actions of the officers are consistent with department policy and the law will not be made until all facts are known and the investigation is complete.
This video was intended to inform and educate the public about a critical.
So, just give a little brief synopsis on it, Kev. Justifiable shooting, in your estimation?
Yeah, Yeah,
Right.
I mean,
Okay.
he hit that one step forward, but I'm not even going to argue the justifiable or not. This is from January 12th. Today's the 27th. This was put up days ago. I'd say that's a pretty, quick overview of what had
incident in
happened.
our community.
It's nice to see from my perspective.
Oh no,
that
I totally agree.
That they jumped on this and they have and it's like I said, their website's packed with these. It's one after. Unfortunately, there's a bunch of them, but they're there, and I don't see them hiding anything from like an incident that would be a little more controversial. Now, what I saw was this one, I believe, was an unarmed.
Well, let's go to that. All right, before you go to that, Pastor Graves, what do you think about the video? But like I said, I think Kevin and I both agree. We appreciate the transparency of law enforcement going forward, divulging stuff like that, especially in Houston, where they were.
Phoenix.
But Phoenix, that one was Phoenix. And what's your take on that? Especially you being a community liaison. If this was New York, you would have to go out and assist in this and try to stifle certain situations. So, what do you feel on the fact of what you saw and how fast Phoenix PD released this video?
Well, number one, I want to apologize I think I was having some technical difficulty there.
Oh.
I don't know how much of the prayer you did or did not hear, so I just want to apologize for the technical difficulty. I appreciate the transparency and the effort that's being made to bring this information forward. I'm sure they did their investigation and they came up with this information. I'm alarmed though. According to this report, the tasers were used, or a taser was used, and apparently didn't work. So that brings up another question: what's the point in these officers carrying tasers if they're not doing the job that they're supposed to do? What is the officer supposed to do after that point if the tasers don't work? What's the next option? Is it deadly force? So that's another question we can talk about as well. But I appreciate the transparency as long as the transparency is there when it appears that the shooting wasn't justified.
Yeah, and to go into like I said in the earlier show, that is the taser the prelude to the gun to deadly physical force, because if tasers are not working, and we've seen tasers not work on big men, little men, slim men, then what's the point of having a taser? Is it to say that, okay, I use my taser, then now I can shoot you? So maybe we need to understand maybe the voltage on the tasers need to be turned up a notch, or to a certain decimal that it will mobilize a person going forward, instead of just tickle them where a person that has mental issues will not feel that, because we know persons with mentally challenged and they having issues, they have strength beyond strength. Anybody in law enforcement knows that. And the fact that, we're not trying to shoot people and kill them, but if this is the protocol and this is the procedure and they're following the format, it's easy for them to see why now people are being shot. Before we go to the next video, Kevin, Pastor Graves, just give us some insight on who we're having on the show this afternoon, please.
Yes, we're going to have Reverend Dr. Q English, and she's going to talk to us about human trafficking tonight.
Right. Okay, good. So, Kev, you ready for the next one?
Yeah, but before I do it, I just want to say something on tasers, right? Yes. Can they not work? I'd love to know the stats on how often they do work, right? Because when it does work, we're not seeing the video because there's no point in showing it. The person was tased, they complied, they got cuffed, and they got put off to jail. The only time you see that is if you watch the show Cops, and it kind of happened often on the show Cops where people got tased. So I think it works a fair amount of time. The problem is for us using them, right? You go to a 2-day training. You're taser qualified. You might not use it for 3 years. until that incident happens, or 3 months, whatever it is. And then that's the first time you fired it since the day of your training. So there is no follow-up practice with it. You can't, right? You can't, it costs money. It deploys, it shoots things. If you do it in the precinct, cops will screw around and tase each other. Lots of us have seen that kind of happen.
Kev, can you educate the viewers and educate myself as well as a civilian? What is the purpose of a taser? What are tasers supposed to do? Of course, it's something that I think it incapacitates. Does it just knock you down? What is the purpose of a taser?
You're gonna drop. It will send a volt in through every muscle in your body. Everything gets hit at once, and everything tenses completely. You can't. But what the problem is, a taser shoots 2 metal probes attached to wires. All right, so those 2 metal probes have to go how distant you are, 5 feet, 20 feet away, and they have to penetrate your skin. So clothing gets in the way. Your cell phone anything can get in the way. A button on your shirt can get in the way. Both prongs have to make it into your skin. If both prongs make it into your skin, you're going down. If they don't, now if you're high on PCP, that's a different animal. I could put 4 prongs into you and you're going to laugh at me. But the average person, and I don't, most people, well over majority of people who are in a mental crisis will go down. But it's getting the probes in. And then how forceful can you be? Because if I have very forceful probes, they're not just going to put a little pinch into your skin. They're going to go through and cause severe damage to you. So it's a tough line, the taser business, right? We want to kind of prick your skin and hold, but we don't want to stab you or, put a hole in you so that the taser works. So it's a flawed item. And I don't know if there's better tools out there that we should be looking at. But that's the premise behind the taser. In the summertime, they're great. In the winter, they're not so good. Winter coats will cause havoc.
It sounds like, I don't like using this word, but I'll just use it anyway. It seems like an alibi for deadly force. That's what it
absolutely,
seems like.
Absolutely not. I disagree with. That is.
Well, we tried the taser, it didn't work, but now this is what we have to do.
In this scenario, throw the taser out. They didn't have the taser. And they're, lining up, forming that half circle around him, telling him to move, don't move, drop the knife, drop the knife, drop the knife. He takes that one assertive step forward. He shot. There's, I don't need to say, well, I tasered him first. Don't need it. The taser part of this equation doesn't help in the defense of those cops. It's that step forward. He had the knife. He took the step forward. Now the taser is them showing they took they tried to use something that's non-deadly to get this guy to comply, and like I said, unfortunately, it didn't work.
But that's the whole point. If the taser doesn't work, then it's justifiable. You see what I'm saying?
But the taser didn't exist. It was justifiable. The taser didn't.
We understand that.
In an unarmed scenario, there might be a different escalation battle, but with the knife at that distance.
But what I think Pastor is trying to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Pastor, and I think I'm piggybacking on it. We're saying that the taser was to stop deadly physical force. If the taser would have worked, he would have fell to the ground and they would have taken the knife away from him. You agree with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So what I think the pastor is trying to say is that if the taser is not working, like I said, if the taser is not working, then it's a prelude to deadly physical force.
At that point, you have no choice.
Agree.
Whatever option that you had before using deadly force is taken away because it didn't work.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You have to use your gun. You have to use your firearm.
Yes. Yeah. I misinterpreted. I took it as you guys were saying that's like a stand. Well, we tried the tasers, but didn't work, so we had to shoot them. Like it was the taser didn't mean it's part of a BS justification. And there's the way I was understanding it. So I misunderstood.
Maybe my choice of word using alibi was not appropriate. We'll use the word, Bill, you used the word prelude. So maybe alibi wasn't the proper word to use there. But what I'm seeing is, and again, police work is very difficult. So let's make one thing perfectly clear. We do not come on this program to get on police officers. I'm dealing with Bill Foster, who's a former NYPD police officer, as well as Kevin Branzetti. The goal here is to better understand, to educate, and myself as a civilian, I'm not a police officer, and I don't know everything. So therefore, when we see something that may be inappropriate, we question it. And we also hold our officers accountable. So that's something that I think the viewers need to know as well. I don't want people thinking that we're always picking on cops.
No, I think, I appreciate you giving clarity to that. And I always say I thank Kevin for coming on and helping me with this, because I've asked other officers of all ethnicities to speak and talk about that. But with that being said, we need to always let people know that this is not an anti-law enforcement segment. We do. This is about clarity and holding people accountability. So that's what we do, and that's what we want to do. With that being said, we are not above Monday morning quarterbacking what we see. And as a civilian, as yourself, that works with law enforcement, you have questions too, because you're kind of stuck in the middle of, wow, how do I view this? And you're a peacemaker in this things. Kevin and I, we come in as a peacemaker, but we may be the person that inflicts bodily harm. And now we're looked at as a white man, a black man, and both law enforcement. So we want everybody out there to understand that we're just trying to give you clarity on what it's like and how do we make it better for people of all ethnicities to understand procedures with law enforcement. And we understand that law enforcement is not an easy job. And anybody that says it is, especially if you've been in the field, like Kevin and I have, frontliners, A houses and places of that. And when we call it A house, we're talking about busy precincts. And there are a bunch of busy precincts. Maybe they're more now than ever. I think I saw the doctor come on, and then she stepped away. When she comes back on, we can definitely introduce her. Pastor, I'll give you that pleasure to introduce her and let her give a testimony about herself.
I want to also do an opening prayer again, since I was cut off, or I don't know how much you guys heard or didn't hear.
Oh, sure, that's fine. No, I don't have a problem with that. Kevin,
do you want to try the second video?
Yeah, let's try the second video, and when the Reverend Pastor comes on, I guess we got a couple of minutes. Go ahead, Kevin, do the second video.
I'm Sergeant Mercedes Fortune with an update on a critical incident in our community of an officer-involved shooting which happened Saturday afternoon near the area of 56th Avenue in Glen Rosa. There is high interest in the case, with social media posts which include misinformation about the facts that led up to the shooting. The purpose of this video is to provide those facts and body-worn video currently available for release. The investigation into the shooting is still in the early stages. Releasing body-worn camera footage from the officers directly involved before all witnesses and officer interviews are completed would compromise the investigation. However, there is body-worn camera video from an officer who was not involved in the shooting, but assisted on the scene, which we are sharing with you. Officers first responded to this area because a man called 911 seeking assistance. He had been stabbed in June and reported the person responsible was back in the area threatening him.
And what is the emergency occurring?
Yeah, that last week somebody hit me with a knife, and I'm going to the hospital for a couple of days, and the police looking for the guy. The guy is right here and trying to do the same thing again.
He has a knife?
Yeah, he's trying to kill me again.
Once officers arrived on scene, they made contact with the victim. He told them the man who stabbed him had a knife and another person had a gun. He directed officers to a house on Glen Rosa where they made contact with several people, including a man inside of the vehicle in the driveway. Officers talked to the man for approximately 10 minutes, asking him to leave his car so they could secure the scene. He refused and eventually rolled up the windows and pulled out a gun. Officers ordered the man to drop the gun, but he refused. The man repeatedly told officers to shoot him and lifted the gun toward the officers. That's when 2 officers fired their weapons. Body worn from a nearby officer shows what happened immediately after the shooting as the officer retrieves the gun from the vehicle in order to safely provide medical attention to the man.
It's in his lap. He just let go of it. Can we retrieve the gun and get him out and get him to fire? Hey, let me glove up. Let me glove up. You have a rifle across the street on that Tahoe now.
Yeah, I got my rifle over there.
Where's the gun?
You good right here?
It's in his lap.
It's in his lap.
Moving, so watch across on it.
Gun is secure.
Investigators are reviewing and are in the process of collecting evidence as they work to have a complete understanding of this officer-involved shooting. Once the investigation is complete, it will be submitted to the county attorney's office for review. Thank you for watching.
So, like I said, I Googled that shooting beforehand, looked for unarmed, and that's what's out in the media, that he was unarmed. We can see clearly the video doesn't show the shooting itself, but they did pull a gun off his lap. So if that's looks like the facts of the case, I think it's great that the police department, 2 days after the shooting, released this video. You know, because if there's media out there saying that this was an unarmed man who was shot, there's clearly a difference if there's a gun recovered on the guy's lap.
So let me ask you a question, Kevin. Gun recovered, but in your estimation, is that's justifiable? Whether it's near him or on him?
Well, it's. Can you have a gun and not be justified to shoot somebody? Yeah, it can happen. But what I'm getting at, we don't have the full facts. I'm not getting at it. We're not getting at the full facts. This is 2 days after the incident. They put this out. Out on the internet, this is an unarmed black man shot by Phoenix police. From what I'm seeing in that video, there's clearly a gun. Now, they didn't pull that gun out of a glove compartment. They didn't pull it out of the trunk, right? That's on his lap. If the accusation was they threw the gun on his lap 3 minutes before the video, that would be a different accusation. But saying he was unarmed, is false.
So let me ask you a question. What was that? That was what state was that again?
This is all Phoenix.
So we don't know if Phoenix is a right to carry state.
Well, yeah, there's other 100%, but there's 100 other things that could be, but that's not what I'm getting at. Like I'm saying, when I Googled to find one, I Googled Phoenix police shooting unarmed man. And then I saw a bunch of things for this July 4th shooting.
So you're strictly just dealing with the word unarmed.
Yeah, I was dealing unarmed. That was it. That was all it was. And I wanted to see what they would show with I actually expected to be an unarmed man shot. Like we didn't watch this beforehand. There was no prelude to this. We put it on. Yeah,
we're going right off the cuff. But the thing that we all know that we've seen a man that had a right to carry. And told the officer that he had his gun and still got shot. So
100%, and that could be that scenario, right? Then that's a different accusation. All I'm saying is, I commend Phoenix PD for putting these out.
Yes,
put it out there. That's why I agree with what they explained in the video. Like they explained even why they couldn't put the body cam video of the officers involved in the shooting. You can argue and say they should or shouldn't, but they gave a reason. That it will hurt their court case. They're not allowed to do it, but we're going to give you other videos to show you what went on.
And let's just say this for transparency: certain things sometimes are not shown because of legality in court cases. But I just want to read something that Well, we have the doctor come in. I'm coming back to you, Robin, and I'm coming back to you, Wilson. Thank you for your questions and statements. I think the doctor is here. I see her. I
Yeah,
see her.
I'm so sorry. I cannot. My other computer just went off on me, and I had to get on this one that doesn't have a cam. So I'm so sorry that I am not
That's
visible.
that's all right, Doc. It's all right. How are you? First and foremost, thank you welcome to Real Talk Chronicles. How are you today?
Yes, thank you. I'm doing well. Good to see you. Good to see you, Pastor Graves, and meeting you, Kevin, as well.
Yes.
Good to
Yes.
see you,
Thank
man.
you. Yeah, we saw
Mhm.
you for a minute, and I'm sorry that you're having technical difficulties.
Yeah, I'm
In
on
the
a new
future,
computer, actually. I'm on a new computer that doesn't have a cam.
that's
So
all
that's
right. Well, in the future, when we get big and famous, you'll be in the office with us, and that'll be just fine. Um, okay, I think her device not connected. We waiting for the doctor to come back. Um, Pastor, do you want to wait for her to come back to say the prayer, or you want to go? Um,
Let Okay, let's
let's
pray.
wait.
Let's pray.
We'll wait.
You want to wait a minute?
We'll wait.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll wait. We'll give. I think she's. Let me see if she's back.
I
Oh, there
hear.
we
Yes.
go.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
We got you. So, Reverend Doctor, we're gonna let Pastor Graves open up a prayer again. He got disconnected before, so we're just gonna start the show with a prayer if that's fine with you.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Reverend Dr. English, open us up in prayer.
Father, we are so grateful for life. We're so grateful for breath. As long as there's breath, there is hope. We thank you, God, for these moments that we share together that aims to impart life and hope and just cause people to lift their heads up in such hard times. But we thank you that you are the light that we can follow. And we thank you for these, your servants, whom you've called for such a time as this. Thank you for the work that they're doing and continue to bless the work of their hands. And may you be in this conversation tonight. In your name we pray. Amen and amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, everybody. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-host Kevin Branzetti and Pastor Kevin Graves, and we have Dr. Reverend Q English in the building. Um, with that being said, Doctor, I'm going to defer to Pastor Graves in a minute, but just give everybody a background on who you are and what you do, please.
Okay, well, I am the president and founder of Not on My Watch. It is an organization led by people of color that combat human trafficking and domestic violence through education, community and policy advocacy, as well as newest initiative providing shelter for those that are homeless. My other hat that I wear is I'm co-pastor, along with my husband as the pastor of Bronx Christian Fellowship. And I am an appointee by Governor Cuomo as his New York State faith-based deputy director of the New York State his faith-based initiative. So those are the various hats that I wear.
Okay, thank you. How did you get into the trafficking, Doctor?
You know, in 2000, I think it was like 2013, I held my first I'm also the co-founder of the New York City Clergy Roundtable. So I held my first conference I think it was around March. And during that conference, I had an intern who wanted to cover someone from South Africa, Bartman, who had been trafficked and had a horrific story. So she wanted to cover her story. And in covering her story in a room of over 100 faith leaders and advocates, we sat there and listened not only about her story in South Africa, but she had guests that were from the US that made us aware that this was happening in our own backyard. And I thought about it, I said, wait a minute, you mean we go to church Sunday in, Sunday out, Wednesday in, Wednesday out, and we didn't even know that this was happening in our own backyard. A lot of times you embrace human trafficking as a third world country issue and not something that could be taken place to the degree that it has been in our city. So, you know, for me, it's about, you know, if it angers the heart of God and we say that we're a servant, therefore it should anger us as well, and that we need to be proactive in this space. And what does justice look like, right? And so For me, my faith-based tradition tells me that we're to do justice, which is an action word. And so where there are injustices, where it pains the heart of God, we too should feel that pain. And so I became deliberate and intentional of surrounding myself with like-minded leaders in this space that are, we are considered, social justice advocates to better educate ourselves. So we started out by forming the New York City Faith-Based Coalition against human trafficking and domestic violence, which there is an intentional overlap. We won't have time for that tonight, but we started, getting educated, surrounding ourselves with experts. We held meetings at the United Nations. We would travel in groups, and the group just kept growing and growing and growing. And the more we were educated, the more our hearts were pained. 2013, losing over 2,300 children, average age 11 to 15 in New York City, not the state, but right here in the city. And then those numbers increasing, and then recognizing that, yes, the number one population is that are Black and brown girls. So we were talking about middle school. Then you will hear stories about what's happening with those in the foster care, what's happening with the kids in the homeless situation. So it just became, that's where it started. It started at that conference, and I've not let go of that since that day. And I'm still very passionate about not just the community advocacy, but policy advocacy, because at the end of the day, there are laws that need to change in order to protect the most vulnerable among us. So that was the start of the New York City. Then we moved into, from there, forming Not on My Watch. It sort of became our slogan, and we just adopted that. And we just became very intentional in being advocates in this space. That's where we started, so.
Oh, thank you, Doctor. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. No, absolutely. And we know we don't have you for too long, but we have you long enough so you can give us some insight. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. If you like it, please share it, subscribe to it on YouTube, or share it on Facebook. I have my co-host with me, Kevin Branzetti, and Pastor Kevin Graves with me. And we have the Reverend Dr. Q English with us. And she will give you some insight as much as she can in the time span that we have her for on human trafficking. Kevin Branzetti is very instrumental in this also. So he may have more questions than anybody at a certain time, Doc. So with that being said, Kev, tell the doctor what you're doing, and then we'll just answer some questions right off the top. Go ahead.
Hey, Doctor, first of all, it's a pleasure. Thank you for that opening. I appreciate it. And what you said is the truth. Once you get your eyes open to this world, there's no going back.
No.
I've been in law enforcement for 27 years. I spent a good chunk of my career, a large chunk of my career, doing work with violent extremists. 3 years ago, I was introduced to the missing, exploited, and trafficked kids world.
Wow.
And I have never looked back. I am now co-founded an organization that helps law enforcement all over the country with those styles of cases, because there's just too much work to be done and not enough time to do it. One of the things, that I would love to see change in this is how we treat runaways. You mentioned foster care. Foster care is the name of it. But
Yeah.
we and it's law enforcement. We're part of it. How we treat it, how society treats it. Runaways are our most vulnerable and our most trafficked of people, and yet they're not our priority. What can we do to change that?
Man, that's a very good and very, very loaded question. I'm an advocate of education, right? So I do work with NYPD as well. They have formed a human trafficking. They do have a human trafficking division. They're very short-staffed. It is not enough to go around, which is an absolute fact and reality. They know us. They know our work. I think one of the things is, and I think it just spans every area, is that sensitivity training, and really recognizing that these aren't criminals, they are victims. And sometimes when we have our heads to think that these are the criminals, these are they're doing this because they want to do it, but they're doing this in some cases because in all cases rather, they're being forced to do it, right? They're being traumatized traumatized into doing it. The PTSD is off the charts with these young girls that are in this space. They run away because they feel like, they're not getting what they need from home, or whatever the situation. They may be coming from another sexual assault situation right in their home. And so when you have somebody like the pimp, they're extremely manipulative. They know what to say to the most vulnerable, and they have a nose for those that are vulnerable and that have very, very low self-esteem. So, they'll start preying on them, and then they all of a sudden they'll start believing that this person really loves me. This person really cares for me. Oh my gosh, he's buying me this, he's buying me that. He's feeding me first and foremost, because a lot of them are just hungry the first day out. Secondly, they need warm shelter. So wow, he is really taking care of me. And then the table begins to turn. And it's at that point they feel obligated to the point of no return. And then the violence escalates. And so now the violence is escalated, and now they are bonded through trauma bonding. And so that trauma makes them think that he hits me because I'm doing wrong, and he really does love me. It's just something that overlap with domestic violence. And so what we need to do is we need to be more sensitive to those that we run into that are that are runaways, that are in the shelter system. We need to have education, and those that are in law enforcement, and those that are advocates, and those that are caseworkers, they need to get trained in this space. And it's not just book training. It's not just getting an A on a paper. It's having audiences and talking to survivors, talking to those that have been there, done that. And also, recognizing when you yourself may be reaching that place of burnout, and you may need to step away. And the problem that we have is that when we deal with these runaways, they run away, and those that are in shelters, etc., they may repeat the offense over and over and over and over again. We need to have that patience. Why? Because we cannot put an expiration date on trauma. It is not our right to tell a person when it is time to get up. We don't have that right. We don't have this textbook right of you need to be on step 3. I'm on step 1, and you're either going to sit in the dirt with me until I'm ready to get up, or you need to find a new occupation. There needs to be more patience with those that are working with this population. And we have to learn the power of developing relationship so that we can be effective mentors. And sometimes it's not us in front of them. Maybe it's someone else that has that heart, that's empathetic. Empathetic must lead in our work, in working with runaways, and working with those that are the most vulnerable population. So patience has to be there. Empathy has to be there. Not being their Superman, because a Superman to them can be a secondary pimp, because the whole world is rooted in control. And so for me to tell you when and what point you need to be at in your life means that I'm there controlling you as well. So we need to be sensitive to that and to be careful. We need to know our role in their life. Maybe we're not the front man. Maybe we're the office guy. We need to be, we also need to surround ourselves with people that can educate us and be more intentional in hearing from the population, and not just those that advocate for them.
Thank you. Thank you. Pastor, do you have any questions before I ask the next question?
Wow. I'm just completely blown away by what I'm hearing. Thank you, Dr. English. And I just wanted to say this before I share. For those who are tuning in and you don't know, January is National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month. That's why we wanted to bring Dr. English on and to talk about this, because this is a very important topic. Dr. English, as a pastor and a chaplain, what can the clergy do to help in this situation? I heard you use words like empathy and sensitivity. And as you know, many of us in the house of God, we mean well, but unfortunately, our words can be very damaging, even though our intentions are to help. What would you suggest the clergy?
Dr. English, I don't know if you have other devices that are watching the show too. Could you mute them or turn them down, because we're getting feedback? Unless you're in a place that has a lot of noise. Thank you. Appreciate it. Go ahead, Pastor.
Yes.
Okay.
What would you recommend for the clergy when it comes to human trafficking or dealing with runaways? What can the clergy do? You mentioned training. Is there an online course? Are there people who can come into the houses of worship? Is there a Zoom call we can participate in? What are some practical tools that can be used for the clergy?
Pastor Graves, thank you for that question. Thank you. And so that's what we do. We have a Safe Haven Network, which is the faith-based arm for Not on My Watch, right? And what that Safe Haven Network is a collection of houses of worship that have gone through the training to understand what it means to be, understand how to recognize the signs of those that are being trafficked. In addition, language sensitivity, right? Because sometimes from our pulpit, we don't even recognize some of the words we're using can be offensive to those that are being trafficked and those as well as in domestic violence situation. The thing that we have the challenge of is how do you talk to the abuser and to the victim that's in the same audience? That's another conversation. But in my work, I did my dissertation in trafficking in school. And so, for me, it is extremely important that the education takes place, language sensitivity. You got to take off the Superman cape, because, we think it's just simply, yes, we want to give them scripture and verse. That's great, but it has to go beyond that. Love has to be the anchor. It has to be non-judgmental love, because we are also guilty of judging what we see with our natural eyes. And what kills me is like, okay, it's as if we were born saints, as if we've never had anything that we needed to be ashamed of. Every single one of us, if we were to undrape ourselves, we'd be screaming and running in the closet. If we opened the closet of all these bones we got, every single one of us, I don't care who we are, I'm talking about me too. And so one of the things that we have to adapt is just thinking about even this, so from the scriptural context. It's like the people were like, they wanted to stone the woman. And he's like, well, hold on. Let's just talk about he without stone cast the first one. And they had to walk away because they realized while we want to judge them, we had a whole closet full of mess. And so my counsel is be careful about the title before your name and the saint before your name and all the titles before your name. And those that you got to be careful that we don't come across as this demigod, as this person that is without flaw. We have to have a sense of vulnerability to those that we minister to, including those that are in this life or that are subject to these vulnerabilities. And for me, it's important. I believe in credible messengers, and what that means to me, because I also did a lot of work in the criminal justice reform area, running programs, is that I had my people that talked to my criminals coming out of prison. They were the credible messengers. They were those that came out of prison and are doing well. Credible messenger doesn't mean just coming out of prison. That means you come out of prison incredible. That word is credible, and you've been have a level of success. And so for me, talking to these girls, when I have those that have been there, done that, hanging out on that peer-to-peer space, it is so effective. The other thing the house of worship can do, and I know I'm talking fast, the house of worship can do is set up, the ministry right within their home. Once they get trained, they don't have to have a counselor. They don't have to have all of these things in place. If you know you're not skilled in that, don't tap into things that you're unskilled in. Have a resource page. Who to call when. That's what we leave you with at the end of our training. Not that you have to be the person to do it, but you just need to know how to refer. But for me, love, unconditional love, the same kind of love that was extended to every single one of us by God himself. That's the kind of love that has to reign. Non-judgmental means you don't keep reminding them of the craziness they've done the last 3 weeks, right? Non-judgmental love is teaching them how to get from point A to point B. And even if that takes a year for some and 1 month for other and a day for others, you got to meet everybody where they at. So as faith leaders, yes, training. Go to my website, info@nomwi.org. Just say, I'm interested in the faith-based training, and then we'll be in contact with you. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. That's actually a concern of mine, is that as leaders, as church leaders, that we are not so overly spiritual that we are of no earthly good. And we're so connected to the house of God as well we should be, in spiritual matters as well we should be, but we're not servicing the whole man. We're not the whole man, generically speaking, the man and the woman. We're not dealing with the concerns, those things that maybe we can't see. And this is where we need to pray for discernment and say, Lord, help me to see the struggles of these individuals. Sometimes it's as plain as the nose on our face. When we see bruises, when we see black eyes, when we see someone that has a fat lip, and we begin to ask questions, well, what's going on here? And again, thank you, Dr. Q. I don't want to take too much of your time. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Well, everybody, this is beautiful. Doctor, please keep me on a time check. I know we don't have you for too long. I have a question, and let me just extend the invitation back to you so we can one day when you can come back and we can see your knowledgeable face, and that you can give us some more insight on things like this, and we can have more conversation, enlighten people. My question to you is, you touched on it a little bit, and please let me know your timestamp. Give us the age bracket. You said it. You said a certain age, but give us the age brackets where people are being accosted and taken away. And is there hope for them to come back?
As long as there's breath, there is hope. That's my motto. As long as there's breath, there is hope. And they say the average age is 11 to 15. That's the average age. However, it's all ages, honestly, that have been victims to this. New York City, we see them young, but also in the 20 to 25 age range has also been there. And there's no one borough that tops it all. It's everywhere. And when we look at 2019, it was reported that we lost over 3,000 children were trafficked that year. And so, and we're considered like in the top 5 jurisdictions in the nation as it relates to trafficking in New York. So that age is like your middle-aged kid. The perpetrators hanging around the school. The number one way they're recruiting them is through social media. And my counsel to everybody, you better know what your child is looking at on social media. You better if you don't know how to look at it, get somebody else to look at it. Mirror their phones, whatever. If you see an adult man on your teenage daughter, ask the questions. There's no such thing. This is my privacy, and you're the one paying rent and putting food on the table. And you don't realize how much of the lives have been saved just by people being nosy. Social media. I mean, TikTok, is even able to get it done in the short amount of time. Emojis are the new norm for this world in communicating how to lure the children and how to set up dates with potential Johns, who I call rapists. And then recognize that when we're thinking about this is one of the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world, exceeding even drug trafficking. Why? You sell drugs one time, but you sell a body 20, 30, multiple times. Don't even think that even in NYCHA housing, our young girls are being trafficked. Gang members are resorting to trafficking even more so than for some drug trafficking because of the money they can make on the backs of our Black and brown. So that is the age we're looking at in the trafficking world. And if there's one more thing I want to share that's very, very, very important at this time, our state, we have advocates looking to legalize prostitution in New York, or they're using the word decriminalize, decrim-NY, in order for the sex trade to be legal, because this is their only option. Let me just give a word of caution. Even through my studies, there hasn't been one country who has legalized or decriminalized prostitution that has been successful. In every country, the age of human trafficking has decreased. The amount of trafficked victims have increased, and the fatalities among and the violence among traffic prostitution has increased. And so if you think of legalization and decriminalization, that means we give law enforcement permission to have hands off. Hands off. That means it goes dark. That means pimps can own legal brothels. Where do you think the legal brothels are going to be? It's going to be in our neighborhoods with men lined up, and it's hands off. And so if pimps are owning brothels, and it means they also have the right to continue human trafficking, which will be illegal no matter what in that through that brothel. So we have to be very careful about what we advocate for and who we vote for. That needs to be one of the questions we ask. What is your stance on the legalization or decriminalization of the sex trade? If they can't answer that adequately, you better know that they're going to get in there, and our city is, and our state is going to look like a pimp state, because you got to pay taxes on that brothel anyway. So my point is, we got to be very careful on endorsing something that can be more harmful in the long run, because why would we want to give someone an opportunity to have an occupation that has a dead end? There is no climb the ladder. The only ladder you're going to climb is the ladder to death and pain. When I tell you about, when you look at the stats on prostitution, has one of the highest mortality rate of any occupation. And so for me to say to my Black and brown children, hey, you can't do this. You don't want to go to school? No problem. You can legally become a prostitute. And that's crazy, not on my watch. So I just want to say, just in case this is the last question or last moment that I have to share, is that you better know who you're putting in office. And if they're advocating for the legalization and decriminalization of prostitution, we are going to suffer greatly in that regard.
Dr.
Awesome.
English, you touched on prostitution. Are some of our young people being lured away, killed, and their organs being sold on the black market? Is that also a part of human trafficking?
That's part of human trafficking, and I can't get into the difference with human trafficking and prostitution right now, but there is, I do want to come back and just walk through some of the differences. Yeah, so you have human trafficking, which entails labor trafficking. You got sex trafficking. You have organ trafficking. Organ trafficking is very real. So the answer is yes, yes, yes. We even had years back, I believe it was in the late 70s, a real major bust of organ trafficking in Brooklyn, right? And if you think of organ trafficking, you got to know what you're doing. You got to know how to, take that organ out, what temperature to hold it at. So my point is, that was not a mom and pop operation, right? This is people that know what they're doing. This is people that are doctors that are involved in this trade, in this form of trafficking. And so, and where is it happening? When people that in the most impoverished areas. Why? Because they need money. They need money and they're going after it. They're offering them. And there are people that are, and then the answer to your second question, yes, there are people that are being lured away. There are people that are missing. Now, not every child that is missing is being trafficked. And sometimes they point to children that are missing and they have come back home. It doesn't mean that they're not having problems at home. But yes, there are cases that kids are being lured away and they move from state to state, right? They're moving from the Bronx, they're moving into Connecticut, Jersey, different places. And then there are those that have been moved, out of the country. I remember we had a sad case. We couldn't do anything about it. I even had my guy from NYPD at the time, who was amazing. He went to the airport because we were trying to create this interception, even though the girl was of age to travel and all of that, but she was with the guy that was the pimp. And, unfortunately we couldn't stop it. So there's some things, that we can't stop, but there are things that we can do to help decrease the amount of those that are being trafficked. Because the reality is that there are those that are dying as a result. Violent deaths, as a result under the hands of the pimp, and violent deaths under the hands of the John.
Wow, thank you, Doctor. I'm assuming that we are our time is coming to a close with you, but I'm gonna defer to Kevin Branzetti if he has a question. If he doesn't, then I have one. But go ahead, Kevin.
Well, first, I just want to, because she's out in the audience, and I have to say it. My hero is out in the audience, Barbara Jean Wilson, who's spoken before on the show, who was a victim of her mother trafficking her. And I think maybe next time, Doctor, if you come on, she'd be a perfect partner to have on with you speaking.
That'd be great.
As eloquent and brave as a human being as I've ever met. There's a lot of things I'd like to see change like it. You've hit it all on the head, and I just again appreciate your time and your thoughts and your efforts out there.
Thank you so much, Kevin, and I appreciate the work that you're doing in this space as well. And I would love to connect with the person that's a survivor under the hands of a mother. And I have a person on my team whose child was trafficked by another mother that ended up being rescued. So I would love to connect with her via email or phone.
Well, Doctor, we will definitely make that happen. Pastor Graves and Kevin will definitely make sure, like I said, you are always welcome. Before you go, I just want to put something out in clarity. Does sex trafficking happen to young boys too?
Wow. And I'm going to tell you something, and this is a sad truth. The answer is absolutely yes. The sad truth is we do not have enough services for them.
Okay.
And I think, we're very much intentional with our girls and young ladies. We're very much intentional in providing. You hear a lot of support around there. And for me, we still don't have enough. But yes, there is they are being trafficked. And you think about, sometimes they're less vocal than the girls would be. But we need more intentional campaigns around helping our boys. The homes that we're opening, we would love to be able to open one for boys, even though the first one that we're targeting is for girls. Our first regular shelter, which is emergency shelter, is happening in the next 2 months, called High Point. But that question is really heart-wrenching because I almost feel, to be honest, partly guilty because there's so much about gender-based violence and so much about women. And yes, we do top the charts. We do, percentage-wise. However, there is that percentage that is not being reached that I feel, or I shouldn't say not being reached at all, but not being reached effectively to really help these young boys. It's
Wow.
heart-wrenching. I'm gonna be honest, it is really heart-wrenching. I've heard some really heart-wrenching stories of, just the sodomy, all just horrible, and even as young as 9 and 10. And it's heart-wrenching. And I think we do need to do a better job, and me included, our organization included, need to do a better job of helping our young men. We have a few, but that's just a drop in the bucket.
Wow. Thank you, Doctor. I really appreciate it. And Barbara Jean, I know Kevin loves this. She said she actually attended one of your webinars a couple of months ago. So I'm going to make sure Pastor Graves will make the connection between the three of you, and along with myself, I'm always willing to help. I follow Kevin's lead, both Kevin's leads on that, because that's Kevin's forte right now. Doctor, this is on YouTube, so you can share it with anybody that you want. Real Talk Chronicles, you are welcome back. Pastor Graves, just let Pastor Graves know when you're available to come back. Kevin Branzetti, Pastor Graves, any of you want to say something to the doctor before she goes? Because I don't want you to leave on a quick. I'd rather you leave when you're ready.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Reverend Doctor, thank you so much. I really appreciate the work that you're doing, your commitment, your zeal, and your desire to get things done. And I know you, and I'm sure you would say it's not all about you, it's about you and your team. And I just want to commend you on this tremendous work that you're doing. And I also want to say for the viewers, is there a toll-free number that someone can call, Doctor? If someone sees something, say something, maybe they are about to become a victim of human trafficking, they don't know what to do, or they know someone who is caught in the human trafficking ring, is there a toll-free number for someone to call to get help?
You're muted, Doc. You're muted, Doctor.
Oh, sorry. Yes, there is a toll-free number. It's 1-888-373-7888. That's 1-888-373-7888. 7888. And that's a toll-free number on a national basis.
Kevin Branzetti, you have anything to say to the doctor before she leaves?
Well, one, I did copy that number down and post it, so it's out
good.
there.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, I mean, like, yeah, I can't compliment you enough, Doctor, for what you're doing. But I just want to throw this out there to the audience: the upcoming event. I mean, this year's COVID, so it's different. The Super Bowl, #1 trafficked event in the world.
Yes, yes.
You know, there are more girls brought in for that event every single year from all over the country. It is the #1 event. That is our society, sadly.
Wow.
It is our society. You are so right. And you know, when you think about that, the hotels have been saturated with that, even though there is organizations like ECPAT USA that's doing a tremendous jobs in providing education to hotels and their staff. As a matter of fact, some hotel chains, I believe it's like the Hilton and Marriott, have if you feel like you're being trafficked, cards now in the rooms. If we could get more of that throughout our hotel chains, that would be tremendous. But you are right. It's a horrific time for our young girls and young women, and even our immigrant population during the Super Bowl. And also, too, if you think about the hotline, like if you don't have time to call, you can also like text the number 233-733 if you don't have time to 1-888-373-7888. Even though I recommend that you do save it, or you know, TTY 711, but text 233-733, and then you will be able to be connected that way as well.
And the caller can remain anonymous.
Yes, and the call, very good. Thank you for asking. Yes, the call is definitely can remain anonymous. And if you see something, say something. We just definitely have to be our brother's keeper in this regard.
Doctor, before you go, and I promise before you go, if people want to reach you some way, somehow, if you're comfortable with that, I know through the channels, can you give them your information?
Yeah, I'll give them my direct email in this space, which is RevQ, REV, like Reverend, QUE at NOMWI.org. That's not on my watch ink, which is NOMWI.org. So RevQ, REVQUE at NOMWI.org. And my website is the same, www.nomwi.org, not on my watchink.org. So you can definitely reach me direct, and I do answer my emails. And so I would love to hear from you. And if there's any training that's needed for faith-based, if you want to become a part of the New York City, faith-based coalition against human trafficking and domestic violence, a part of our Safe Haven network, please do. If you want general training, we've done training at Cornell Hospital. So it's not just, restricted to faith-based organizations. We've done private sectors, we've done schools. So if you have a need for training where I can bring survivor faces and survivor voices, which is very, very important to me because my organization is survivor-led, just please reach out to me and we will arrange that.
I'm going to reach out to you with regards to the training. I'll be in touch.
Okay, sounds great, Pastor Gray.
Doctor, we appreciate you. You're always welcome back. Once you're on Real Talk Chronicles, your family. So you're always welcome back. I already
feel like family. I do. I already feel like family. Thank you so much. All right, God bless you.
Take care.
God bless you. Take care now.
Good night.
Wow. That was awesome information, fellas. I think she definitely, in the time span that she had, she gave us what we needed to hear, our listening audience needed to hear. What's your take, Kevin Branzetti?
So, like I said, she's right. She's great. Once you do get in this space, it is a strange addiction. What's more important than saving our youth? Period. And for the audience, like things you can do, right? You want to go big level, get into the foster care system, become a foster parent, right? That system, and I don't care what state, what city you're in, lacks good people to take care of our most vulnerable kids. On a smaller level, talk to your police commanders and your politicians. Ask your police commanders how many runaways, or your police commissioners, how many runaways do they have, and what's their program when they're found. Wow. You're you're going to get a lot of people doing, this and kind of running. And I'm not trying to embarrass anybody in the police department. That's not who I am whatsoever. It's we need to change the conversation. And, police departments are asked about, we talked about shootings, fine, that's always going to come up. But we ask about homicides, rape numbers, or car thefts. Like we track the 7 majors. Car theft is in that, right? We know New York City has 7 majors. Kids are not.
That's deep. That's deep.
So talk to them. Ask your politicians, what are they doing about what programs did they sponsor to help runaways? What social services do they have? What is their jurisdiction doing? We ask those questions. And they're all politicians, police commanders and politicians are politicians. You make politicians uncomfortable with questions they don't have answers for over and over again. They're going to do something. And that doesn't take much. It's a call. Pick up your phone and call your local state senator and say, what are you doing about it? And if 5 people call that state senator and ask, they're going to put a couple of their people on and go, all right, what are we doing? And they're going to get back to you. But if we're not pressuring them, it's the ugliest thing that nobody wants to talk about.
I see that because I think with this, it seems like there's a lot of accountability and lack of accountability. You understand what I'm saying? Because how did you let this happen? And what are you doing about it? And if you're not doing anything about it, why and how come? Because the bottom line is these are the youth and this is the next generation. And now we're dealing with damaged goods. First and foremost, let's just talk about the trauma that's caused from this situation. And then how this transcends into their day-to-day life. But the fact of it is, hopefully we can get them back. So this is a very big topic. I'm glad that you're instrumental in it, and I'm happy to, if I can, piggyback behind you. You know what I'm saying? Because I have no problem being an Indian in something that I don't know, and I'm glad Pastor Graves was instrumental along with yourself to bring these topics to the forefront. And I'm glad Real Talk Chronicles was able to be a platform that we can discuss this topics that we don't hear a lot about. But with that being said, Kev, we have a lot going on in regards to what was talked about in lieu of shootings and things of that magnitude. So we're going to try to go back and have this conversation with our people. And we were talking about, or these people were talking about, let's see if we can go back to what is it, shootings? Let's help me, everybody.
The question was, and just not to give it verbatim, but the question was about why, as cops, why don't we shoot in the legs, the knees, shoot the gun out of the hand? That aren't we better at it?
Right.
And that's a commonly asked question. And I will tell you, every cop out there, 99% of them wish they were and had that ability. The truth of it is, we're just not trained. We are not professional firearms people, right? You go to the academy, you get a couple of weeks at the range, and then for us, NYPD, twice a year you go to the range and you shoot. And that twice a year, you're barely shooting. You're shooting for 2 hours out of the full day. Majority of our day we spend there sitting, waiting our turn, kind of deal.
And what's so funny? I mean, kudos to Wilson. Wilson and I grew up together. We went to the same grammar school. We went through the academy together. We're from the same neighborhood. And Wilson was phenomenal in the work that he did with organized crime. So I say all that to say that, he's a man of color. So, but what we have to understand, like you said, Kevin, that shooting, we were never taught to shoot at the knees, at the thighs, at the shoulders. We were taught to shoot center mass. So, Liz, what I'm trying to say is, I totally get what you're saying because you're trying to preserve life. But, we have to go back, and I say this, and I say this with a smirk on my face, but I don't say this with a smirk in my heart. The old cliche is dead men tell no tales. We are taught to shoot center mass. Center mass. When you shoot center mass, it stops the organs, and when the organs are stopped, the body stops. I'm not going to sit here and say that shooting center mass means that we're trying to kill people, but that is that's from a layman's term, the street knowledge that yeah, if I shot you in center mass, I shot to kill you because I shot your organs. From a police standpoint, this is probably and Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong. They're saying he shoots in a mass just to stop the body from moving, and it deads everything. It stops everything in its tracks. Is that kind of fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of things why you shoot center mass. It is the goal is we've always taught to shoot to stop the threat, right? Center mass is the biggest part. As cops, we're lousy shots. We're lousy. We miss more than half of our shots. More than half of our rounds miss. So now, if I'm now aiming kneecap, what am I missing? 90%, and those stray bullets hit something as well. We're not firearms professionals. We're also not self-defense and martial arts professionals. And Bill and I talk about this often. We do this all wrong in law enforcement. The calls for defund the police, I think, is absolutely wrong. It's let's fund them and train them to actually be what we want them to be, which is, self-defense, martial arts professionals, so their hands work, and we don't have to go to guns a lot. And firearms professionals. You want a firearms professional, they got to train. We use the example of I can't take Taekwondo class 27 years ago in the academy, go twice a year, and then next week you send me to the national championships. I'm gonna lose every teeth in my mouth, right?
Yes.
Every tooth in my mouth is gonna get knocked out.
Absolutely.
You can't fight like that. Pro athletes train every day. Pro everything trains constantly. Cops are not given the opportunity or the training with their firearms. It just doesn't happen. And it's expensive, but I think if we looked at the dollar and cents on that one, what it cost, $25 million on every bad shooting, if we knocked off half of them, and just on statistics and money, it kind of pays for itself. Nevertheless, the human life that we'd like to all have back. So,
you said something so true. I mean, I remember before the academy, I trained to fight nationals. I trained so much, sparred so much, just to hope to win. You understand what I'm saying? And be efficient and a technician in what I do. As time has gone on, I've perfected certain moves and certain things, but that's over a course of 30 some years. You understand what I'm saying? And still a practitioner. So everything that you said is totally right. And that's why we're having Eric Adams back on a Tuesday, a special edition, everybody. We have the borough president, Eric Adams, back on at 5:00 on is that the 9th, Pastor? I think it is the 9th, right?
Yes, that will be February 9th.
February 9th. Kevin, of course, hopefully you can make that. That's what I'm telling you now. I know it's 5:00, but that's the time he allotted us, and but he wanted to come back, so that was a beautiful thing. I'm trying to have with Real Talk with Al Taylor, we're trying to get other mayoral candidates in, either Scott Stringer, but we're also trying to find other mayoral people that are running for office. We are trying to have them come in a lot of times. Also, too, what I want to say is that when we speak to the borough president again, and I talk about things and people are talking about reforming and retraining and defunding. I am going to mention to him, if he ever becomes mayor, can he implement maybe an extra 3 months of self-defense training for officers that can feel comfortable? Because the bottom line is, in martial arts, it's not mastering a bunch of moves. It's maybe mastering one move, you know what I'm saying, that can save your life. And, when you think about, Kevin, when we worked in the 2-8, there were only known martial artists in there. It was like Carlos Castro and Earl Jones and myself and things like that magnitude. But the bottom line is we still needed a village, and I say a village, a police family to apprehend certain people. But it didn't mean we weren't scared to interact with a person talking volatile or the threat of hand-to-hand combat. And even a person like yourself, non-trained but not scared, you didn't have a problem engaging because the bottom line is it came with the job. Like, okay, maybe I'm gonna get some lumps, but he's gonna get some lumps. You know what I'm saying? And because anybody that knows law enforcement from old school, listen, if you touch a law enforcement or you do something, it was a turban party, and you was going to go to the hospital. That was it is, but you was going to go to the hospital because you got your derriere kicked. You wasn't going to the hospital because you got shot. So I mean, a lot of people are in here and they're talking. Um, let's see. Let's comment. Um, like Wilson said, we are trained to shoot, stop the threat. Exactly. Adrenaline running through your body when you're going through that, you get tunnel vision. Exactly, Wilson. He says also there isn't enough time to training to make all cops into snipers. Absolutely. Kevin, follow up on those on these. Go ahead.
Well, I think you can make us better shots. I think we can, but training in the adrenaline, right? That's almost impossible. There's, Bill, you spar fighting, right? And that is completely different than when you get in there with another man who's going to look to take your head off, right? Like, you're in a professional fight.
And let me just say this. You know what's so funny, Kevin?
Your adrenaline's not there. Street's different.
Kevin, you hit on an excellent topic, because I say this, and I'll say this to you and Pastor, and I'll let you comment. Organized fighting is totally different than street fighting. And I say this because I've had the misfortune of having a bunch of street fights because I worked in organized crime and things of that magnitude, in lieu of having organized fights for competition and trophies. So I say all that to say, the worst fight to have is when you don't know who's going to break it up. You understand what I'm saying? So there isn't any let me hit him in the stomach and hopefully he falls. I hit where I want to hurt you. You understand what I'm saying? So just in your point, and I think where you were going with this is that even being trained in an organized fashion doesn't mean you're going to be efficient in fighting in the street, but it also backs up your professionalism and your credence and credibility on being trained properly. Pastor, give us some intake on that, and go ahead, Kevin. You two talk about that for 1 second as I step to the left.
Yes. No, actually, I wanted to go back to the whole center mass. That's an easier shot versus hitting a Kev, you're muted.
I was just shaking my head agreeing. Yeah.
Yeah. So
you needed to hear the marbles ringing when I shook my head?
No, I didn't know if you wanted to respond on that, so I just wanted to. I saw your mouth move. But yeah, it's an easier shot. So therefore, you do what you need to do in order to stop the perpetrator from moving. I don't envy anyone who has to, any officer, police officer, staying on message, that has to pull their firearm. Because it's one thing to shoot someone, and let's say you shoot someone and you kill them. Okay, you did what you needed to do to protect yourself, your partner, and those around you. But you also have to live with the fact that you killed a human being, whether they're in the right, whether it was justified or not. You still have to live with the fact that you took a life. And I just hope those officers that do, they get some sort of counseling, because that is still a life. And I understand you did your job. Soldiers in the field go through post-traumatic stress disorder because they had to kill someone, or they've seen certain things on the field of battle that they take home with them. So I applaud those officers that do their job responsibly. They do it with care. They do it with empathy. They do it with sensitivity. They do it with courtesy and professionalism and respect. And this is why we talk about things like this, because we believe in holding not just NYPD accountable, but all police departments accountable for their actions. I think we should. And we can't be so blind is to think that cops are always in the right, because they're not. If you're living in that realm, then that's not a realistic realm to be living in, because we have cops who are racist, we have cops who care about community. So we have to deal with both sides, and it's very important that, again, as we've had this conversation before, we believe in supporting our police officers, but at the same time, we also hold them accountable. I yield back.
I completely agree with you. You know, it's a tough job, right? And you know, these conversations about shootings and adrenaline, and Wilson has said it a couple of times in there, right? Like, it's, you know, training for your life and death. And if you've never had a gun pointed at you, if you've never had a bullet fired at you, you know, your room closes. It's not intentional. This is just what happens. It is gone. Your vision becomes this. If you're lucky, it's still the target in front of you. That's the threat. You might not even be able to see that anymore. It is it's a lost thing. And then, you know, your gun, if it is 1 millimeter up, can miss your target by 5 feet, depending upon the distance of the person. Right? Like a little shake in your hand. These things are not. I don't care if you have a laser sight on the guns, which we don't. Movement is movement. You know, for every couple of feet that person's away from you, that millimeter your gun moves is dramatic. You know, changes trajectory terribly. So the training that is incredibly hard. And the only analogy I can give is pro football players. Train as hard as any athletes out there. Every week, train. How many football players every Sunday give a late hit?
Still.
Every week.
No.
Every week, there is a late hit call. They know they're going to get penalized.
Yes.
They know probably going to get fined too. They know their coach is going to go ballistic, and it happens. It's the field of battle, and things happen.
That's true.
And that's not life and death.
Yeah.
Right. You know.
Like Darren, what's up, brother? It's always good to see you in the group too. He said more than enough money has been spent on policing. The issue is not training; it's about respecting certain groups of people. How about allocating the funds to youth programs? What do both of you stay with that? And I'll start with you, Pastor Graves.
We have youth programs. We have of course, the Explorers, and we also have youth community council, where we have officers, and I believe every precinct has this, what they call YCOs, or youth coordinating officers, that reach out to the young people to talk to them within the community that they're serving. And we have something within the NYPD called Youth Connect. We haven't had it recent. We normally have it during the warmer months of the year, because we like to utilize the parks. There's a park here in the Bronx over by Yankee Stadium I go to, and we have our Youth Connect event over there. We haven't had it. We didn't have it last year because of COVID, of course. So we do have youth-related program, of course, PAL, Youth Connect. We have YCO officers. So NYPD is making an effort to connect with the young people. That we understand that it is important to connect with our youth on a positive basis. So if there's some more programs out there that I'm not aware of, great, terrific, but I just wanted to give you that bit of background. Youth Connect, we have our youth coordinating officers to reach out to young people in their particular sector. And also, I'm sure there's some other youth-related events that we have during the summer months of the year.
Branzetti, you want to piggyback?
I mean, there's a lot, right? So, you know, the youth, it's not just up to the police. This is the community. It's everybody, right? You know, my question, anybody else out there is, what are you doing? Like when I was younger, I did a lot of time volunteering, coaching. And coaching a sport with kids is not about just teaching them how to play baseball, how to play hockey, or whatever your sport is. It's about talking to them and being a role model for them, and showing them what an adult is supposed to be, what a man is supposed to be, what a woman is supposed to be. Sometimes they lack those things. Sometimes they lack a little understanding of things in the world. So we all have to do something. Do I want to see more done for our youth? Hell yes. All right. I've talked about this on the show. I want to see the city school systems turned on its head. I think our schools, our elementary schools, our public schools are all done wrong. Our worst public schools are in our poorest neighborhoods. And that's not how we fix poverty, by giving them a lousy education on top of it. We need to change our investment from day one. I want to see those public schools in poorer neighborhoods, the teacher ratio to student drop 20-1. Throw in more teachers in it. Let's spend money. I don't mind paying taxes for the right reason, and let's bring in, and Bill, I've definitely talked about this a lot, have sponsors for these schools. We have billionaires all over New York City. Have Mike Bloomberg sponsor an elementary school. We can sell the names of these schools for money, whatever it is. I don't care. I put somebody's name on it. People love to see their names on things.
They do.
Get their money and get their money and get their time in. And then local colleges look at what happened in 2020. How many 18 to, college age kids are running around this country at some protest or other, have lots of energy. They want to do things. Tap into it. Get them to come over to the elementary school and spend some time with our kids. Have we developed programs where those young adults are sitting there twice a week tutoring our kids? And I want like the same young adult tutoring the same couple of kids every week, so they get to know them. Role models in teaching. There's a lot that can be done, but it's not just the police's problem, right? If we think the police are going to solve our youth's problem, we're sadly mistaken.
It's so funny. I appreciate that. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-hosts, Pastor Kevin Graves and Kevin Branzetti. Something that you said, Kevin, about community. I'm just going to say this real quick, and then I'm going to go back to reading some of the comments. We all know about the young lady that went to purchase some alcohol out the liquor store, and she was attacked by these savages, biting and fighting and kicking a woman, and jumping a woman. Unheard of nonsense, right? I was talking to some law enforcement officials, and the one thing that they had to say to me that hit home was that the community is outraged. You see it on social media from people all over the world talking about this young lady being attacked. And they were saying to me, but where's the same outrage when an individual is just got shot for no reason? Why isn't the community rallying around that? I don't have the answer. I didn't know what to say. I don't know why people pick their poison and pick one battle and not the other. And I think that's what their point was. Their point was, if you care about everything. Don't care about one thing. I don't know. If any of you want to comment on that as I get ready to read the next question or statement, you please go ahead. Otherwise, like I said, it was something that was brought to my attention, and I understood their pain and their passion with it, because as law enforcement people, we try to do our job. As people, we take an oath, that honor that oath. We want to solve the crimes. And I know Kevin is typical for that. We can go back and forth about anything, this, that. But I know when Kevin came to work, he came to do what he had to do, and he left it all on the table at the job. And he gave it 100. You know what I'm saying? So I do know that about Officer Branzetti, and I know we all had our own ways of handling our business. So it's just something that was brought to my attention. Like, well, there was just like, well, a week ago, a man got shot or a woman got shot, and where's the outrage in that? And I don't know if it was more frustration in their voice, and like people need to do better, or was it just like, why we pick a certain topic? And go ahead, Pastor. I see you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
No, thank you for sharing that. I would say this. We are concerned about any sort of poor behavior, murder, abuse in our community, whether it's civilian, police on civilian, civilian on police, civilian on civilian, whatever the case is. But I do believe there are people who pick their struggles, or they pick what they want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Police brutality is something that has been going on for years. Are black folks or black and brown people beating one another up, killing one another? Absolutely. And I am just as outraged by that as well. Should we do something about it? Absolutely. What can we do about it? Well, we can talk about it, we can march about it, we can legislate, but in the end, we are still dealing with human beings, and with human beings, we're going to do things that just will make us shake our head in the end. Why did this person do this? Why did they beat this young woman up? What was the purpose of that? What did you get from that? Did that make you feel like more of a man? So within our community, there are many complex issues, whether it's homelessness, drug addiction, alcohol abuse, what have you. And can we solve every single problem? I would like to believe we can, but unfortunately, some of these problems are very complex, and I hate to say it, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to solve some of these complex problems. I don't want to say impossible, but some of these issues are really deep rooted. So what can we do? Why is it that we focus on police brutality, and then when we hear about black on black or people of color committing violence on members of their own community, how come we're not addressing that? Maybe
Pastor,
we are.
let me just interject. Let me interject
Yeah.
for 1 second, and I want you to continue your statement.
Yes.
And this is something that Kevin and I, Branzetti, had talked about before. That what they show in the media, 85% of white on white, 85% of crime committed on white people are done by white people. But we don't hear about that in lieu of people of color, maybe if it's 90 to 93%. So the bottom line is crime is being committed in white communities too, but we're not hearing about that. And that is problematic, because the bottom line is it just shows a barbaric and animalistic feel for people of color. So that is a problem. But if what happened if people of color stopped hurting each other, what would they show on the news? You know what I'm saying? So go ahead. I'll defer back. Go ahead.
No, that's a very good point. And I'm also careful with statements like that too, with regards to why are you focusing on this particular issue, but you're not focusing on others? Are you trying to take my attention away from the other issue to say, well, look, you have enough problems in your own community. Why are you focusing on this? So that could be used as a strategy to take away from the issue of police brutality to now focus on yourself. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm a little careful with that statement too. Like, for example, let me give you this example.
Well, I'm just going from a factual standpoint, because the bottom line is it's not addressed. And the thing is, I think a lot of times people are good
And we
at
have issues in our community.
Yeah, and we're not going to take away from the issues of our community. We absolutely do have issues of our community, but the thing is, it's almost sometimes when you address somebody with a certain issue, and then they don't talk about their own, but they keep talking about mine. So that was I think my point. And the thing is, there's crime being committed all over the world.
That's
But
correct.
if you're going to just keep showing people of color, then you're studying just on people of color, and you're not talking about just crime. You understand that? And that's what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
If there's a man of color, brown or black, getting shot over some drugs, there's a white man shooting another white man over some drugs or gambling or something too. But it's
just not reported, or we don't see it as often.
That's my
right.
point. Yes, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing about this too, I love NYPD, and I know I've been on many Zoom calls, and there have been some people who are saying back the blue, and I'm all for backing the blue. But sadly, there are individuals who will do this blindly, meaning that they will say back the blue, and if you question the blue, then you are against the blue. Those individuals are short-sighted, and they're colorblind, because in a sense, you are saying, yes, I back the blue, but yet you're not seeing when the blue doesn't back the community at times that it serves. So is it fair to say that I back the blue at any cost, no matter what officers do, good or bad? That is dangerous, because you're not holding cops accountable, because then now they're going to think that, oh, well, no matter what we do, you got our back, right? You're with us. I'm not with any sort of abuse of the community. Why? Because I serve the community. Yes, I serve NYPD. I also serve the community. I cannot be biased. And I have to serve the NYPD, and I serve the community just the same. And if the community is saying, look, we have some issues with these cops, I don't know what's going on, but we've had some problems, we have to look into that. We can't ignore it and say, no, I back the blue. So if you got issues, well, maybe it was justified what they did. No. You know what that is? You know what that is too? That's actually a form of what we call covert racism. Meaning there are people who will say, well, Black lives matter. Well, no, all lives matter. That's an example of covert racism, because it's taking the attention off of the message of Black Lives Matter onto all lives matter. No one's not saying all lives don't matter. But are you hearing what I'm saying? Or do you feel, are you empathetic to my struggle? That is a form of what we call covert racism. And then, of course, there's overt racism, which is calling someone the N-word or burning a cross on your lawn. So these are different strategies that we see within our within our society. Excuse me. Whether it's overt or covert racism. For anyone who questions this, please do your research on this, and you'll be surprised by what you'll find.
Awesome, everybody. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-host Kevin Branzetti and my co-host Pastor Kevin Graves. We had Dr. Q English on earlier talking about human trafficking, but right now we are just talking police and politics. It is what it is. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to it if you're on YouTube, or share it via Facebook. I just want to read some of the questions or statements in the group. Anytime either one of you want to stop me, please do. My man Darren said the funding is not less police on the street. Wilson, he said, however, more importantly, cops need more aggressively social and race training before it become a sharp shooting. A lot of less situation can be handled differently. Absolutely. Liz said, thank you for your honesty. Thank you for all being honest. I wasn't aware of that. I guess whatever the topic at the time was. She said that's why she watches us on Mondays and Wednesdays. Thank you, Liz, my old Hunter College partner. Wilson, he said, Darren, it's a terrible name to retrain, refocus law enforcement. I agree. It's not less cops. Darren, when cops feel like they are being deployed to the neighborhoods that's a big problem. What do you think about that, Kevin? That's a good point where he said it. I see you, Mark. I got your next statement up. But the fact that he feels that officers may feel that they're deployed to a neighborhood, because Kevin, like I know, we've heard officers says, "Oh, I don't like this precinct." You'd be like, "Why you don't like it?" They're not a great places to eat, huh? Like you didn't come to work to eat, so.
Well, look, eating is a part of life, and yes,
it's a part of life. But I'm
there
trying
are
to
cops
say,
who, Bill, I would never, if I had my choice today by a precinct to work, it'd be a 3-2. Right, like that to me is just where I'd want to be. And then there are cops who would prefer to be on the softest of the Staten Island precincts. It's just that's just who people are.
Yeah.
Some cops don't want any part of it, and they can't wait for that end of the tour to get the heck out of there as fast as they can. They're the ones who are 15 minutes before the end of the tour parked outside the precinct waiting to run away. And then there's the other ones who are out there, there's 15 minutes in the tour and they're still answering a job and doing their thing, right? Like it's just not for everybody. So do some of them don't like to be deployed? That's a term I don't really like, but assigned to a precinct. Yeah. I had the opposite feeling, right? When I got promoted to sergeant, I got assigned to the 5-0. I almost threw up. like it was the last place on earth I wanted to be was Riverdale. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like
Nothing was that. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, that's my old stomping grounds. How
Yeah,
dare you?
I did. Well, and also at the time I lived in Queens. Living in Queens and traveling to Riverdale, like it was the worst possible. It was a
And the high,
it was
it
2
didn't
hours
mesh.
on the train.
It didn't mesh. It didn't mesh exactly.
Yeah, I was hoping, like I said, for the 3-2, and I got the 5-0. It's not the same thing.
Oh, so you
No,
want
it
to come with the
definitely
3-2?
wasn't.
Okay, good choice. Good choice.
So let me read some more. Mark said, Kevin, you were right. I think due to certain shootings from the past, it becomes an issue with litigation from lawsuits against the city or state. But it certainly would be better if officers had hand-on-hand skills. Excuse me. Yes. Wilson said, been involved. Yeah, sorry.
It's life. It happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I apologize, everybody. That's real talk. I didn't mean to belch like that. Wilson said, fighting for your life and fighting in a competition is totally different. Exactly. He agreed with you on a horrible experience. Wilson said, agreed. Plenty of youth programs aggressively trained for de-escalation, race issues being addressed in straightforward ways in policing. Wilson had also said, I think he said he had been involved in 3 shootings and it's totally not like real life. Too much social responsibility and is thrown upon the police. Exactly, Wilson. Institutional racism in the media. Yes. Let's see. Wilson, he said the unions need to say you effed up. You are your own. We don't have your back. To have union heads screaming in front of the media backing cops that are clearly have done wrong. That's a big thing. Kevin, I know that's a thing with you. I'll let you say something, Kevin, and go ahead, Pastor Graves. I'll let you piggyback on it. Go ahead, Kev.
Well, look, I'm
now,
for
now let me just say, Wilson's a former law enforcement too, like us.
Yeah, I got it. I'm reading his stuff.
Okay.
Your union head's job is to protect their people. That's it. So to me, a union head screaming means nothing to me, right? That's what they're going to do. It's not, it's a tough line to say which time should they say, I'm not going to defend the people who pay my salary, right? Because that's.
But wait a minute,
stay with his salary. So what's that line?
Let me interject for a second. You said something for when do they say not something about paying my salary? That is the one thing cops used to hate to hear. I pay your salary. So you can't use it. You can't use it.
No, but that's his job. His job is to protect the union people, and it's what they're going to do. I have no issue with that. It's should they be out? How about this? I'd rather them go out and say nothing. But if they're the only voice defending the cop publicly, if what you have out there are lots of politicians, activists, and community members or people who are on media on Sunday morning shows talking bad about the cops, who's going to be the one talking, on the other side? Is it just the union head?
Well, no. But the bottom line, I think, and I say this with all transparency, I will applaud a good cop as fast as I'll talk about a bad cop. And I think if you honor the oath that you've taken, then it is what it is, because the bottom line is they are right and wrong. It's like a person with a family member. You know what I'm saying? If your family member is just bad, you're not going to sit there and say, yo.
You say it inside, though. You don't say it outside the family.
Yeah, but yeah, what's funny? It's one thing if we're talking about like Al Pacino said in The Godfather, Fredo, don't ever take sides against anybody but the family. Okay, but the bottom line is we're talking a whole different structure, and then in law enforcement, that a job that you chose to take, you wanted to take, or you may have been just because you took it because you had nothing else doing in your life. See, a lot of people have the misconception that police life is a calling. No, it's not a calling. Some people didn't have anything else to do in their lives. They would have been losers. They was just
some people were just called, and that's it.
Like I think about Leahy. You know what I'm saying? That used to work with us. Before he got injured. Like I think he was a call. Like he was a calling. You know what I'm saying? Like you and Kev. Eddie. Y'all kind of were like callings. Like y'all are meant to do this thing because you buffed out and you wanted to chase everybody and you wanted to do all the paper. You listen. So I know callings. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Like it became a calling for me. I don't know if I was called. I think I've had many callings, but this was an avenue that I took down that I was called and I was able to do and utilize it and make it a calling. But there's a lot of people, Kevin, you know, as I know,
Yeah.
they ain't built for, they're not built for this police life.
No, we could tell some funny stories about people, you know, people who
Yeah.
hid and people whose mother called the CO, and you know, like there's some good stories we
Yeah.
can tell off
Yeah.
the air
Yeah.
here. But that's any job, right? What business, what job exists out there where 100% of the employees are good, hardworking? That's what we are as a society. Where a percentage of us take our work, you know, have a work ethic. I honestly, well, you know, I think the way people who worked good cops would have been good at working at Target as well. Like there just is a work ethic, you know, and maybe we don't teach
let me
that
just
in
say
our
this,
youth.
and I'll let the pastor chime in on this. Kev, you know, you're definitely, and I'm going to use the word, and I don't use this in a derogatory ideology with you. As you say, you know, you bleed blue, you're pro cop, right? I'm pro law enforcement, of course, because I wouldn't have taken the job if I wasn't that. But the thing is, I'm super pro people of color. I say all that to say, but my personality would be a personality in Target, McDonald's, Macy's, politician, lawyer. My personality is my personality. Has my personality, because we know on a patrol level, and we're talking strictly patrol right now, where you're interacting with people more than you ever, that my personality superseded anything else. I mean, if you have good personality, you know, listen, I could come in, I've stifled riots, I've stifled race situations. So that being said, if you're a people's person, you're gonna do great in law enforcement. If you're a hole, you're gonna have a messed up career. And I mean, and career dealing with the public. Let's be fair, because your coworkers can choose to deal with you or not deal with you. The public, they have no choice when you interact with them. Go ahead.
Yes, and yes, there's a percentage of those, and you know, I also think we push out our older officers too soon, right? When we came on, and definitely before us, the cops on patrol were seasoned veterans. I am a more patient, smarter man today than I was at 22. There's just no question, right? Yes. And I would handle a situation much better today than I would at 22. I run faster at 22, and I'm going to catch you back then, right? But
yes,
you know, so there's a trade-off. But we patrol when we shortly after we got out changed, and it became 2 year. Everybody had 2 years or less on patrol. Wisdom doesn't exist with 2 years. It just doesn't.
No.
And you don't know about how empathy works. There's a lot of things just as a human being. So
you know what's so funny, Kev? I would take, and Pastor, I'm gonna let you chime in. I still want to read all the comments before we get out of here, but I'm not a component of college credits over age. I'm a component of when Kevin, like you said, when we came on the job, shut up and listen. I don't care how smart you think you are. Shut up and listen. You're going to learn the law enforcement right way. You know what I'm saying? Like it was what it was. I'm a firm believer in coming on this job at 25 with some life experience. You know, some bills behind because you respect your work. You know, if you're still living home with mommy and daddy, and you know you thinking this job is all cops and robbers and bad guys and good guys, and you're mistaken. Give me your intake. Give me your take on that, Kev, and then I want to pass.
Well, I mean, some
That's
people
his
have
take
to
on
live at
that
home
too.
when they first, some people have to live at home when they first take this job because the starting salary is awful.
I understand that, but that's why I said if you come on this job at 25, you've accrued. You should have worked, or at least even if you graduated from college, even if you're still living at home, you're out of college at 22. That's 3 years to be working somewhere.
Yeah. Well, look, there's a lot of things that should be done different. Like I said, we push out the seniors officers. We push them off of patrol. They want off of patrol. It used to be a prestigious thing and a very good thing to be sitting in that car every day.
Yes,
I would actually, Bill, if you and I sat in a car answering jobs on the whatever the Daytonas in the 2.8 today, we'd have a good time.
Well, you're right. We would have a great time, and I guarantee you, we would probably solve more crimes without ever putting our hands on somebody. But I will say this: I think if we touch somebody, everybody in the world would know
People
that they deserved it.
Yeah.
Right.
But we'd be better at de-escalating things. We'd be better at, just learning who we're talking to in the community because you're comfortable.
Exactly.
I wasn't comfortable at 22. I wasn't comfortable in my own skin back then, right? Like I was still trying to figure out who I was.
Why weren't you comfortable? I understand it, and I respect it. Okay.
I was a kid. Bill, at 20, you can say 22 is an adult. I was a kid.
But then when I say that, and this is Real Talk Chronicles. This is not. I respect everything you're saying because I'm sure you, along with a lot of other you as a 22-year-old white officer is no different than you as a 22-year-old black officer. So I'm not putting you on the spot as a white officer. What I'm asking you is that you just acknowledge that you were a kid, but you took a job that gave you a gun. Like, so I understand that. But I also understand that you just realized, like, not that you just realized.
When you're 22, you don't realize that, Bill.
Okay, no, and I'm, like I said, I'm not trying to put you on the carpet. I'm delving into the mind that you realize now at your age, whatever age you are now, that you at 22, like you were a kid. You know what I'm saying? And you were a kid with a gun. Yeah. And there's a lot of law enforcement out there right now, and that's why I said 25 because you're more mature and you're seasoned. Do I think it's awesome that at one point for you and I, can we come on this job at 20 years old or 21 years old and retire at 41? I think it's beautiful. I think it's awesome. But honestly, when you have a mentality, not you per se, but other young people that understand that are kids and still kid-liked mentality, and they do kid shit because they're kid scared, and you get kid problems.
Yeah. But I'll also say this, Bill, if you and I were on the job still, right, NYPD, and we had 10 recruits, all 22 to 25 years old, assigned to us, brand new, fresh out of the academy, they'd learn well. And they would do it right for themselves.
Absolutely.
You need the right people training it's youth is youth, right? So a youthful cop to a youthful human being, right? We need the right people around them, the right role models. I talked about it earlier with kids. Role models are important. And, if your first experience with NYPD or any police department is you got this, cranky old cop who's, more likely to tell the first person he deals with on the street to go F themselves, that's what that kid cop sees, and that's what he thinks the job is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what they become.
Yeah.
So that training officer, those first people, they're the most vital part of the lifeline of a police department, but we don't treat them that way.
Awesome.
They're not paid that way. They're not respected that way. They're not thought of that way because they're the long-term solution, right? Short-term is what's going on right now. And police commanders to politicians, we don't think long-term. If you invest in who's training your cops, then those cops, when they're 25, 26, 27, will be spectacular. And when they're 30s, they'll train the new young ones to be spectacular too. And it pays on and pays it forward, but we don't. I saw training officers that, scared me. I saw training officers that were bad.
Who was your training officer, Kev?
So we had, and even what else in Detroit, we had a mixture, right? It changed constantly, but like there was, Rob Apollo would be one of the great ones out there, right? He was one of the smartest guys I ever worked with, and nothing fazed him, right? Like smart cop,
Was you talking about the sergeant? You talking about the sergeant Apollo? Yeah.
Knew a lot, smart, quiet, but nothing like it. You screwed up because you're going to screw up. You're going
and he's
to
still
make
on the job. Shout out to I think I don't know if he's an inspector right now, but Apollo was an excellent boss. But I was saying, who was your train? Like
He was one of them.
Apollo was your.
It was one of them. Yeah, I had probably 5 or 6. Like it kept changing.
Okay.
Nobody lasted.
I mean, shout out to Dennis Gonzalez. He was my training officer. Excellent tactical training officer. He taught me the job. So I mean, I think we've differed in our views as we got older. But I mean, as I will always give him his props. Pastor, let me give you maybe you could chime in before we start reading some of the comments before we get out of here. What do you think about what we were talking about in training and in youth getting on the job and things of that magnitude and stuff like that? What's your take on things like that?
For me, it's a hard issue because if we can legislate, we can train, but if you're dealing with someone whose heart is not right, how can you fix that? How can you train a heart? And when I'm talking about heart, I'm talking about an individual that truly cares about community and cares about people. So training and retraining is great, but retraining in the hands of someone who doesn't care about the community that it's serving, to me, is pointless. And you can, and even punishment, you can put down legislation to whether it's banning the chokehold, which is a good idea, or if you want to bring the diaphragm law into place. What we're doing because of the issues, we're putting laws in place that we think are actually helping the community, but they're handcuffing the police, no pun intended. So, and I understand why these things are happening, but I really think we need to rethink what we're doing, rethinking the laws that we have in place. And I'm all for legislation, but again, we must check the heart of the men and women who serve as police officers. I'll give you an example very quickly. I had the privilege of about a year or two ago to speak to some recruits in our muster room at the 3-2, and I sat down with them, and it was really an honor and it was a privilege. And I asked them the question. I said, "Why do you want to do this?" I said, "You can't be doing this for the money, but why do you want to be a police officer? What's the point in being a cop in this city, as difficult as it is?" And they looked at me, and it was quiet. Some said, "Well, it's something I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to help people and serve the community." For some, it's a part of their bloodline. It's a part of their heritage. Their father was a police officer. Grandfather was a police officer. Okay, those were just some of the answers. And I respected every answer because it was their answer. And I also shared with them that you have to love this work. You really have to care about people. If you don't care about the community that you serve, whether it's the Black community, Hispanic community, Asian community, what have you, wherever you're stationed, if you do not care about the community, and if it's only a job that in 20 years, I get full pension, and if I want to continue in law enforcement, I can do that. So if it's just a job for you, then you're in the wrong line of work. It has to be more than just a job, a city job. It has to be something that you genuinely enjoy doing. And you're saying, you know something, with the authority that I have, I can make a difference in this community. Police officers are more than just gun carriers. They are individuals that carry an authority and can counsel and have the power to make a difference in the lives of ordinary people. You can speak as a police officer, and Bill and Kevin, I'm sure there have been young people, young and old, who you've spoken to, and they're like, wow, I didn't look at it that way. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Absolutely,
That's policing.
absolutely.
It's not all about chasing down perpetrators, arresting people. Maybe, hopefully, you never have to fire your gun. It's more than that. Policing, for me, honestly, not I'm a cop, but it appears to be a lifestyle. It appears to be an attitude, a character that you have. And if you don't have any character and you don't care about the community, then please don't be a cop. Because what you're going to do is you're going to disgrace the uniform and you're going to put your colleagues in danger.
I agree. I agree. Awesome. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-host, Kevin Branzetti, and my co-host, Pastor Kevin Graves. I have something that I want to say to Pastor Graves, but I'm just going to hold that thought right now. I just want to read some of the comments real quick before we get out of here because it's at that time. But like Paula, shout out to Paula. I see you, Wilson. Wilson, thank you so much for being a part of this. My old grammar school buddy, my neighborhood brother, and narcotics ranger with me. He said, Paula said, good evening. Why won't more people of color she said, why won't more people of color don't empower themselves with attending precinct council meetings to be a voice in the community? Some people like to talk about things and not be about their business. I'm going to ask y'all to come back and comment on that because they're all social media. Stephanie, what's going on? She says, why the good cops don't call out the bad cops? Wilson said, right to you, but the general public, the message is different. Exactly right. There's a paycheck for many. Wilson said, he said, my FTO was a cop that had two and a half years on the job. Exactly. What could he teach you? He couldn't answer many of the questions. He says, when I was in the academy, there were guys that weren't even legal to drink. You're right about that, Wilson. We know that because we were in the academy together. Wilson said, Pastor, I agree with you, but we can't hire just to heart. Like Kevin said, there will always be folks that are there for a paycheck or a pension. It's about changing police culture to the pressure those people do to do the right thing, to do the job right. I apologize for that. He said, Pastor, I agree with you, but we can't hire to heart. Just like Kevin said, there will always be folks that are there for a paycheck or a pension. It's about changing police culture to pressure those people to do the job right. Pastor, I'll let you comment if you want to on that and finish that, and then I'll say what I want to say. Go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. It's the culture, and also I'm going to stay with the heart, because if I hate you, you can change the culture of the department all you want. I'm still having an issue with you personally. So you can say, well, what you're doing is not right. You need to fix that. I can still harbor ill feelings towards you. You can talk to me all you want. But he is right with regards to the culture, and I want to touch on that, going back to the police union. And not just the police union, but also those in hierarchy have to send a strong message to those in the rank and file that we will not tolerate any misappropriation, any sort of corruption, any sort of police misconduct. This has to come from the very top. It has to come from the commissioner, trickling all the way down to the captains and the lieutenants and all of those who are in power, all the way down to the rank and file. There has to be a strong message that we will not tolerate. And if we catch you, you're going to be in serious trouble. And not only that, I'm sure you don't want to go before the Civilian Complaint Review Board. You don't want to have to deal with them, or IAB, should you be involved in something that could land you in front of those people. So those are dirty words. Civilian Complaint Review Board, IAB, those are nasty words to police officers. So if you don't want to go before them, you better do the right thing. So can that change the culture? Can that now cause cops to now begin to monitor their behavior? It's possible.
Hey, Sweat, I'm going to let you say something real quick. I just want to shout out Keith Gamble. Shout out to you, brother. How are you? We're going to have you on the show one day. Keith Gamble, I think he's a pastor too, but a former law enforcement brother too. I just wanted to give you some, only for those he said, Keith, he said, only for those who aren't straight. Paula said, what are we going to do about the violent extremists that are coming to our city with their racism? We're going to get in there. We're going to have them come back and comment, but we're going to get out of here. Sweat, I'm going to let you say what you got to say, and then I have an announcement that I want to say. Go ahead.
So to me, it's about improving the percentages, right? We're never going to have 100% good-hearted, hard-working cops. You got that end of it, and you got the other end of it, and you got a lot of that's in between. So, yes, past exactly what you're saying, it's got to come from the top. But I'm also into doing more sting operations, right? Like where we send out undercover officers to test cops and keep them on their toes. Because if you're not, Bill, how many times have you seen a cop, and I'm going to use the phrase we used, shit can spend more time not doing their job than doing it? There are a good chunk of cops out there who do that. They'll just spend more time to get rid of you. It's not racist. It's not anything else. They just suck as cops, right? But if they knew they were going to get in trouble, and if they got in trouble occasionally for shit canning, they would stop, right? Like, or a percentage of them would stop. So I'm always looking to improve our percentages. I can never turn that cop into a good cop, but I can at least get him to do the bare minimum that he's supposed to do, and take the report from the complainant and show up at their house when he's supposed to, and do his duty. So I'd like to see a little bit more of that. Doing more stings and more, catching cops when they talk inappropriately. Yeah. I should never call you an MF, right? Like there's just no, now you're pointing a weapon at me.
Oh, that's all.
I can say whatever I want, right? Like that's a different thing.
Yeah,
but I pull you over and I ask for your license and registration, and you say to me, "What did I do?" And my response is, "The fuck you talking about?"
Exactly.
That cop needs to get in trouble, right? And if you do that too many times, and that's who you are, you need to be removed, right? Like, I can have a bad day. You always have to have the bad day theory. Have I ever said something inappropriate to somebody? Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
It comes with the job. Yeah.
So
it just comes with life too. It comes with life. Yes.
I am pastor about improving the percentages, and improving the percentages is the top down. It's stings. It's good training officers who are with our youthful cops for a long period of time. It could take 6 months. It could be 2 years worth of spending more time with senior cops to make sure you're groomed and brought up right in this job. It is not it's nothing as this is a quick fix, but we can change things.
Awesome. And that's a beautiful thing. Kevin Gamble, you're still on the job. Respect to you, brother. I know you're doing the same thing that I'm doing. You're just doing it on the left side. I'm doing it on the right, or I'm doing it on the right. I'm doing it on the left, and you're doing it on the right. I say that with love and respect. And I think you're also in the ministry too. I know that. Maybe we can get you on the show one day. The sidebar, hit me up on the side. But respect to you always for I respect all my people that's out there doing the same thing we're trying to do, just bring light to this thing. I have an announcement I'm going to say real quick. Real Talk is doing great. And Pastor Graves has been an instrumental part in helping Real Talk get the message out there to the world. And I've only had 2 Mondays open. Usually I have the second Monday in the month, and I have the last Monday in the month. And, he's been instrumental with helping us, Kevin Branzetti, bring light to certain things. So last week, I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, Pastor Graves, last week we had just a spiritual section, just you and I. It was an interview with you and I. And we just talked spiritually and just about life and the Bible and things of that magnitude.
That was on Monday.
It was a Monday, right? It was last Monday, right?
This Monday.
The Monday that just passed. This Monday that just passed, and which is the last Monday of the month. So with what I'm about to say is that I'm offering you, if you want it, your own Monday slot, the end of the month, where we talk spiritually, just Pastor Graves. We can have people on and just have a spiritual love thing, and we can just talk about life. But you deserve your own slot. So if you want to, you don't have to say it now. But
not like putting pressure on the man.
Yeah, exactly. I'm personally, and I'm sure Kevin Branzetti is happy to hear this too. Just that the fact that you know you're real talk family. I told you that. Malika and I told you that. But
Thank
you
you.
know you've brought like the overwhelming response that we got from that evening, in lieu of what people were just like loving and listening to us converse about life and the Bible and from a spiritual aspect, and they just felt that you brought so much light and your family, you know that, and I told you that, but I just wanted to let, if you want it, you don't have to answer now, but if you want it, you have the last Monday of every month. It is Real Talk with Pastor Kevin Graves, and I just wanted to extend that offer to you on that
Well,
on this segment. That's what it was, and you always can come back on Kevin's segment. We're gonna come back on Kevin's segment, and we're gonna take his segment over. But I just wanted to let you know that you are so appreciated
well,
from
thank you.
Malika and I, and the response was beautiful. And people had just called me and told me that just like they just had a great enlightenment and conversation. I even told now I'm going to call him Reverend Al Taylor. I told him, I said, "Yo," I said I'm thinking about doing something with Pastor Graves. He was like, "Yo, he's with it too." Just so you
Amen.
know, it is what it is. You can think about it, and you can let me know. But I just wanted to extend that to you before we get out of here. I appreciate you so much, your family.
Likewise. I
So
appreciate you both.
good. So Kevin, give us some words of encouragement and some love before we get out of here, and then Pastor Graves, you can close us out with a prayer. And
Amen.
uh, it's Real Talk Chronicles, everybody. If you like what you heard, please share it. Upcoming February, we definitely have Al Taylor is working, the Assemblyman Al Taylor is working on bringing on some people that are running for offices in the 2021 era. I don't know who he's trying to get, but we're working on that. Pastor Graves is, we're bringing back Borough President Eric Adams on the 9th of February at 5 o'clock, a special edition that's on a Tuesday. So hopefully we all can be here for that. We don't have them for a long period of time. Every Wednesday, I have my boy with me, Kevin Branzetti. We here just trying to figure it out and make the world a better place. I've extended the offer to Pastor Kevin Graves for the last Monday of every month. We have Allison Williams for the third Monday, Real Talk with Allison Williams. So Real Talk is doing this thing. Thank you all for the inboxes, the comments. We appreciate you all for your input. It humbles me to know that so many of you listen to us and you share our content. So please just keep telling a friend that this is all we're trying to do. Not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. You know, we're just trying to just bring some good enlightenment and good conversation to the table. Thank you. Sweat, take us out and then pass the prayers out. Go ahead.
All right. Get out of your comfort zone. Use the power of your voice. Try something. You know, we don't have to do. You don't have to give up 10 hours, 100 hours a month, or whatever it is to make change in this world. Sometimes it's just a little bit of your voice. Call your local politician. Learn who your local politicians are first. You should know who your local city council member is, your state senator, your Senate senator, your representative to Congress. Call them and ask them about different things that mean something to you. Right? Your one call, will it make a difference? Maybe, maybe not. 10 people call that same politician with the same question, there's going to be an answer. They listen. You know, they may not listen because they want to, for whatever reason they listen. Someone listen because they think it'll get them more votes and get a little pressure off of them. Whatever it is, I don't care. Use the power of your voice. It is why, you know, wealthy neighborhoods have the best public schools. It's the power of their voice. You know, they use it well. Let's learn how to do that ourselves.
Amen.
Awesome. Pastor, words of enlightenment, and then you can pray us out after.
Be the change you want to see. Be the change you want to see, just to add to what Kevin Branzetti said. And also to begin to look ourselves in the mirror and say to ourselves, within my skill set, what can I do to be the change that I want to be the change that I want to see? What can I do? And ask God. If you don't believe in God, just begin to ask yourself, within my ability, how can I make a difference in the life of those who live in my community? If this is truly a passion of yours, if this is something that you've spoken about and you want to see change, if you're seeing depravity, if you're seeing brokenness around you, instead of complaining about it, what can I do to help? Can I be a listening ear? Can I offer, as Kevin Branzetti said, a voice or a word of encouragement? So once again, be the change that you want to see. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this edition of Real Talk Chronicles. I thank you for my dear brothers, Lord, Bill Foster and Kevin Branzetti. Lord, continue to strengthen them. Continue, Lord, to impart wisdom. Continue to impart your perfect peace and your spirit in them, Lord. And I thank you for their friendship. I thank you for their brotherhood. Lord, I pray that you would impact those who are tuning in. I ask that, Lord, you would be glorified in the lives of every viewer who tuned in tonight, Lord. And I thank you, Lord, for Reverend Dr. Q English, who took time out of her day to impart in us wisdom and understanding. And we thank you for the awareness and the message that she brought forth. We thank you for what you're doing and for what you're about to do on Real Talk Chronicles. We give you all the glory, honor, and praise. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. Pastor and Kevin Branzetti will hopefully they'll go back in their leisure and comment and converse with you. Real Talk Chronicles every Monday, every Wednesday, alternate Tuesdays. Listen, like it, share it, tell your friends. Real talk. That's what we do. Everybody have a good evening. We're out of here.
God bless you.
Good night. Did he run away already?
He quit, isn't he?